Hi guys, this is Shwaku7, and today I want to talk about accommodation. And accommodation is when the body becomes accustomed to the exercises or the strength training method that you use, and it results in slow progress to no progress to even performance decreases. And Louis Simmons of Westside Barbell talked about accommodation because that's what the Conjugate Strength Training Method is all about, is to rotate exercises, to do exercises in different manners, which includes changing the placement of your hands, and also doing it from different angles, like from an incline or a decline, and using devices to change the load. For instance, the Conjugate Strength Training Method uses resistance bands and chains and weight releasers. But to change the exercise, even in slight ways, will help prevent accommodation. So the goal is to find different ways to exercise, or find different ways to do the same exercises, and even to change strength training methods. Because there's many ways to exercise. You can do it by using progressive resistance through adding more weight, or by adding more volume, which is adding more sets and reps. You can do it by increasing the velocity, like doing the dynamic effort method of lifting non-maximal weight as quickly as possible. Or you could slow your movements down. If you have limited weight, maybe you only own a 40-pound dumbbell set, and they do sell them. I saw them at Walmart. You can just use it very slowly. And by doing it very slowly, you're increasing the difficulty of the exercise. Even if you have 4,000 pounds of weight plates like I do, you can still do exercises very slowly, just for a different change of pace. And again, the goal is to prevent muscular accommodation. You can do it by elasticity, by using resistance bands and bungee cords. You can do it by magnetic resistance, like I have a push-pull sled that has 8 different levels of magnetic resistance. You can do it by time, by doing static holds and pauses. For instance, when you're bench pressing, you can go halfway up, hold it for a 1001 count, and then lift it back up. Now, if you're going to do that, I don't suggest you do that with maximum weight, but if you use a percentage of your 1 rep max, and doing static holds and pauses is another way to prevent accommodation. But there are many ways to achieve muscular overload, which includes by grip compression, as Eugene Sandow, the father of modern bodybuilding, advocated. You can even do it by muscular contraction. And I have a copy of Eugene Sandow's book, Strength and How to Obtain It. And he wrote this in 1897. But Eugene Sandow had 2 different theories of how to obtain muscular overload. One was through the use of grip compression. And Eugene Sandow marketed 3-pound dumbbells, which were adjustable. They had 7 compression springs, and you could adjust the tension, because you could squeeze the dumbbell using grip compression to obtain muscular overload with 1 spring, and then work your way up to all 7. And you would think that a 3-pound adjustable dumbbell wouldn't create much muscular overload. But you shouldn't think of it as a 3-pound dumbbell. Instead, you should think of it as a 3-pound hand grip. And I guarantee if you hold this for a minute or so, you will find the tension will probably be too much for you to endure. But the second method of muscular overload that Eugene Sandow advocated was the mind-muscle connection. Eugene Sandow asserted that you could use the brain to create muscular overload. And I'm going to read an excerpt from his book, Strength and How to Obtain It. And it's on page 23. And it's in the second paragraph. And Eugene Sandow wrote, "Frequently, pupils ask me how long it should take them to get strong. The answer again depends on themselves, not only on their physical constitution, but also on the amount of willpower they put into their exercises. As I have said already, it is the brain that develops the muscles. Brain will do as much as dumbbells, even more. For example, when you are sitting down reading, practice contracting your muscles. Do this every time you are sitting down leisurely, and by contracting them harder and harder each time, you will find they will have the same effect as the use of dumbbells or any more vigorous form of exercise." Now think about that. What Eugene Sandow is saying is that you don't need any exercise equipment. That by consciously contracting your muscles harder and harder each time, you can create muscular overload that will create the tension that you need to develop muscular endurance, size, and strength. That all you need to do is just flex your muscles. And if you try it in front of a mirror tonight, I guarantee that you will find that your muscles will get pumped up. And even tomorrow, you may find yourself that your muscles are sore, especially if you haven't tried this method before. But this video isn't about Eugene Sandow or his twin theories of using grip compression for muscular overload or using the brain, the mind-muscle connection, to contract your muscles consciously to create muscular overload. Instead, this video is about something different. Like Louis Simmons said, to avoid muscular contraction, you have to rotate exercises. You have to change strength training methods. And the Conjugate Strength Training Method does this by changing between the maximal effort method to the repeated effort method to the dynamic effort method. The maximal effort method is lifting as much weight as you possibly can. The repeated effort method is lifting non-maximal weights to failure. The dynamic effort method is lifting non-maximal weight as quickly as you can. So the goal of the maximal effort method is to develop as much absolute strength as possible, to lift as much weight as possible. But it comes at a risk because there's a higher risk of injury, and you're more likely to reach a state of burnout much faster doing the maximal effort method than you are with the other two methods. The repeated effort method, which is lifting non-maximal weight to failure, the goal is muscular hypertrophy and muscular endurance. So if you're trying to achieve as much size as possible or as much endurance as possible, then you should be using the repeated effort method. But the problem with this is that, just like the maximal effort method, if you just keep doing it, you will reach a state of accommodation, which is why you need to rotate exercises and rotate strength training methods. And the goal of the dynamic effort method, which is lifting non-maximal weights as quickly as possible, is to develop explosiveness, explosive strength, to develop bar velocity. But just like the maximal effort method and the repeated effort method, if you do it too much, it will have a diminishing result. you will see a lack of progress or no progress, which is why you should rotate between the 3 different methods. And there's actually a 4th method, which is classified under the dynamic effort method. There's actually a 4th method called the submaximal effort method. And Vladimir Zastyorsky, who came up with these different methods of Soviet training, classified it under the repeated effort method. Remember, the repeated effort method is lifting non-maximal weights to failure. But Vladimir Zastyorsky classified the submaximal effort method under the repeated effort method. And the difference is, while the repeated effort method lifts non-maximal weights to failure, the submaximal effort method lifts non-maximal weights for intermediate repetitions. So, if your goal is muscular hypertrophy, you don't have to go to failure. You can just use intermediate repetitions, like 12 to 15 repetitions, and do this for several sets, and you can develop muscular hypertrophy as well. But if you want the best way to develop muscular hypertrophy or endurance, then you should use the repeated effort method of lifting non-maximal weights to failure. But even if you do, you still need to rotate. To change exercises, or change at least the intensity of the exercises, whether you do it by speed, or whether you do it by using static pauses or static holds, or by doing more volumes or sets, or adding weight, you need to change the way you do the exercises, and even the strength training method, to avoid muscular accommodation. There are many strength training methods. For instance, in the Conjugate Strength Training Method, as advocated by Louis Simmons of Westside Barbells, there are many strength training methods within that strength training methods, because he uses Zastyorsky's Soviet training methods of the maximal effort, repeated effort, submaximal effort, and dynamic effort methods. But he also uses the Bulgarian strength training methods, which uses many sessions of short durations of maximal weightlifting, because the Bulgarians will train as much as 6 times a day, but your short sessions, 10 to 15 minute sessions, for 6 days a week. But this comes at a high risk of burnout and injury. So if you're thinking about using the Bulgarian training method, then you should think twice, because it should only be done under supervision and under coaching. But he also uses the percentage method, and Louis Simmons has incorporated many strength training methods into the Conjugate Strength Training Methods. But there's also Pavel Tsatsoulin's Greasing the Groove method, which you can read about in his book, Power to the People. And Pavel Tsatsouline advocated buying a 300-pound barbell set and doing single arm presses with just the Olympic barbell. And if you can't lift the 45-pound barbell, he recommends using a curl bar, which is lighter. And also doing 2-handed deadlifts with the Olympic barbell weight set. But his training method is different, because what Pavel Tsatsouline advocates is doing low reps, anywhere between 4 to 6 repetitions. For instance, he would advocate doing 5 reps sets. So if you're doing pull-ups, for instance, you would just do 5 repetitions, and then you would wait 3 to 5 minutes to allow your body sufficient time to recover, and do another set of 5 repetitions, and do this for as many as 20 sets. And in this manner, Pavel Tsatsouline asserts that you can avoid muscular fatigue and muscle soreness, but still get the volume you need to develop muscular endurance, size, and strength. And my personal opinion is that Pavel Tsatsoulin's greasing the groove method is the best way for a beginner to develop a good strength foundation. But after you develop that good strength foundation, it's time to rotate to a different strength training method. And there are many more strength training methods. If you buy the book, The Barbell Prescription, which is an excellent book and which I highly recommend, if nothing else, just to learn more about what is happening within you biologically through sarcopenia and osteopenia, and how the mitochondria plays an important role in strength training, and the bioenergetics aspects of how the body converts ATP and goes to a state of glycosis, and why it's important to develop more mitochondria, which are the power plants to the cell. Because the more mitochondria you have, the more blood sugar can be taken into the cell and converted to energy, which not only gives you more energy, but reduces the amount of blood sugar in your bloodstream, which makes it less likely that the body will convert this to fat, because your goal is not to have visceral fat. Because if you have visceral fat creates inflammation. So if you see somebody with a protruding or extended or bloated belly, that person has inflammation. That person is physically sick and may not even be aware of it. But if he gets rid of the visceral fat, he'll get rid of the inflammation and he'll lose his bloated belly. But if you read the Barbell Prescription, it has detailed information on how you can set up a training program, whether you be a young adult or whether you be in your 30s or over age 50, or if you're female. It contains very detailed information on how to set up a strength training program, which focuses on the deadlift, the bench press, and the squat. But it's a very sound strength training program, and I would recommend it as one of the strength training methods that you should rotate to. But there's also other strength training programs like gymnastic strength training and calisthenic strength training, and they have merit as well. But the strength training method that this video is about is something off the wall, but yet it is very effective. And your grandparents are probably aware of it, but you may not be. And that is the Charles Atlas Dynamic Tension Strength Training Method. And I actually purchased an old Charles Atlas Dynamic Tension Strength Training course, and I paid more than if I had bought it new, because this is the actual correspondence lessons that you would have purchased if you had bought this 100 years ago. And I paid $70 for this course. So I paid $70 for this old male correspondence strength training method. But that's okay with me, because what's important is the knowledge. Because if that knowledge helps me to live longer, then it's well worth it. So the Charles Atlas Male Correspondence course is essentially 13 different lessons, and it's not just isometrics. And remember what isometrics are. Isometrics is muscular contractions without joint movement. And the course itself is called dynamic tension. So what Charles Atlas Dynamic Tension Strength Training Method is essentially about is that it combines calisthenics or bodyweight exercises with stretching exercises and isometric exercises. So he combines 3 different strength training methods to create his own eclectic or conjugate strength training method. So before there was Louis Simmons, there was Charles Atlas. Now remember, the name of Charles Atlas' course is dynamic tension. So dynamic means with joint movement, as opposed to isometric, which is muscular contractions without joint movement. And one of the exercises that Charles Atlas teaches is isometric. And that is just taking your palm, your left palm in this case, place your right fist on it, and then push down with your right fist while resisting with your left palm. So your left palm is going upward and your right fist is going downward. So what you're doing is you're using self-resistance. And if you do this correctly, your muscles will tremble. Then after you do that for, say, 5 to 7 seconds, you just switch. So now my left fist is in my right palm. And what that is an isometric exercise because I have a muscular contraction without joint movement. Another exercise that Charles Atlas advocates is putting your two fists on top of each other like you're pulling a rope. And then pull downward in a slow fashion while contracting your chest. And you will find that this will create tension and your muscles will contract. And because your joints are moving, this is a dynamic exercise that has an isometric feature. It's like isometric, but it's not because your joint is moving. Even though your elbows aren't, your shoulder joints are. Another exercise is you take your palm, in this case is my left palm, and I'm putting my right fist on it, and I'm going to push down with my right fist while lifting up with my left palm. And this develops the shoulders and the chest. And then you just switch. Another exercise that Charles Atlas advocates is grabbing your hands, interlacing your fingers underneath your hamstrings, and push down with your thigh while resisting with your hands to develop your back muscles. And it actually works. It will develop your back muscles. But the many exercises that Charles Atlas teaches are useful and effective. So Charles Atlas teaches many unique exercises that you're probably unaware of. And they're different. They're definitely different, but they are effective. And the value I see to this is, number one, it's a different strength training methods. And there are different exercises that you've probably never done before. So this will create a different type of stress, a different type of tension, and will help you prevent muscular accommodation. And that in itself makes buying the Charles Atlas course worthwhile. But there's another reason that I see why it's practical to learn the Charles Atlas dynamic tension strength training method. And that is, there will be times where you're not around the gym, where you don't have gym equipment. And maybe you don't want to get on the ground and do push-ups. But learning to do these unique exercises, which can be done anywhere, in a bathroom or at work, perhaps you're working overtime. Or maybe you're on a trip. and you can stop at a roadside rest and you can practice these exercises. And you can still maintain your level of strength, if not add to it. And this is the value I see with it, because essentially you are the gym. That the only exercise equipment that you need is yourself, because you're using opposing muscle groups. You're using self-resistance. So whether you're in a submarine deep underneath the oceans, or if you're an astronaut orbiting around the Earth, where weights is not going to help you develop muscular overload because of there's no gravity in outer space, you can use the Charles Atlas Dynamic Tension Strength Training Method. So there you go, guys. That's all for this video. It's something different, something unusual. It's a different way to approach strength training. But remember, unless you rotate exercises and change the way you do the exercises, and even change the strength training method, eventually you're going to reach a state of muscular accommodation or plateaus where your progress will slow down, stop completely, and even result in performance decreases that you'll get weaker. Because unless you challenge your muscles, there's no reason for your muscles to develop more muscle size, mitochondria, and capillary density. Okay, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification so you'll be notified when I create more YouTube videos. And as always, thanks for watching.